If you've ever wanted to visit Ukraine with an expert on the history, culture, and language of this fascinating country, you're in luck. On the line with me now is just such an expert. For the past several years, Ukrainian cultural specialist Orysia Tracz has been sharing her vast cultural knowledge with very happy and satisfied travelers on her folk arts and culture tours. Another one of those tours is scheduled for this summer, and she joins us now to tell us a little bit about it. Thanks so much for joining us, Orysia.
Well, thank you, Paulette, and my goodness, such an introduction.
Well,
I have to come down to earth.
Well, not at all. Certainly more than well-deserved, actually understated. Because you've been taking these tours for a long time to Ukraine.
This past August was my 13th time.
Wow.
And it's just wonderful, and I love it.
Uh-huh. So tell a little bit about your background. I mean, anybody that knows you and knows me knows that I call you my walking, talking Ukrainian encyclopedia. And I'm sure most people who know you would agree. You've been doing cultural research and translation. You've got some books.
I think it's 6 or 7 now. It started with, back in 92, I did the Ukrainian folk costume book that was published in Toronto and Philadelphia. It was a bilingual book, and it's quite lovely. And it was the Sfujo who published it, the World Federation of Ukrainian Women's Organizations. And then Rodovid, a publisher in Ukraine, Lida Delkat, asked me to translate Ukrainian Antiquities, a book on Carpathian folk art collectors. And that was a beautiful book. Absolutely gorgeous book, and that came out in separate Ukrainian and English editions. Mm-hmm. Later, I did Lida Orel's, it's called Painted Wood, Malovane Derevo, and it's about folk painting on wood in the village house. So it's walls, ceilings, hope chests, cupboards, and everything like that. Mm-hmm. And that was interesting. And then just recently I did another one for them called Kozak Mamai. And then for the Honchar Museum, Ivan Honchar Museum in Kyiv, and he was a fascinating man. I guess he was the original scrapbooker, because he was a sculptor by profession, but when he was in the war, in the Red Army, he saw all the destruction going on, and then how the Soviets were destroying Ukrainian cultural things. And he promised himself that if he survived the war, he would work on preserving folk art or folk culture. Mm-hmm. And he did that, and he had a museum in his house in Kyiv, which was constantly under surveillance and always under threat of being burned down or something. And if foreign visitors came, they'd be in trouble and he'd be in trouble. But finally, he passed away in 93, but his house museum turned into now a national museum. And and what he did is he collected, it's 18 volumes of these very large albums, and each sheet is from a particular village. So you have the photographs, his watercolors of bisamke or weaving or embroidery or metalwork or whatever, and just photos and this and everything identified in, exactly. And there's 18 volumes of this.
Wow.
So for anybody interested, there's a lot of material there. So I've been working on that. So far there's 3 of them out. Mm-hmm. And a lot to go.
Mm-hmm. And you've also been writing for the Ukrainian Weekly.
Yeah, I forget how many years now, but I have a column there called Why We Do.
The Things We Do?
Things We Do, yeah. And that's sort of the editor, Roma Hadzevich, lets me write about whatever I want to write about.
Yeah.
So it's mostly on culture, but then whatever else I feel like expressing an opinion about.
So 13 years ago, then you started to do these tours. What led you to start that?
I do this during my vacation. Mm-hmm. I'm not a travel agent, and I'm not a professional tour leader. But back in 93, a lady she passed away a few years ago, a very nice woman, Irina Zadrevets, who was a travel agent. my children were attending Ridna Shkola, Ukrainian school, where she taught. And we got to know each other. And back in '92, she said, "Why don't you lead a tour to Ukraine from my agency?" And I said, "Well, I've never been there." She says, "That's okay." She says, "From knowing what you know, I'm sure you'll do okay."
Oh.
So, but she had people in Ukraine who, handled everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that first tour was a plane tour, because the two gentlemen from Lviv, Ihor and Mykola, showed Ukraine the way a general tour would be.
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoyed it very much. I kept adding stuff to their commentary, and interpreting and this and that. And then she wanted me to go the next year, and I said, no, not yet. And then I decided if I go again, I'd like to show people what I want to see.
Ah.
So, and what I'm interested in, and if they want to tag along, that's fine.
It sounds like a lot of people do, because you've been going back, doing the same tour year after year.
Yeah, because I would like to go to some other places, but everybody still wants to go. Most people have roots in Western Ukraine,
mm-hmm.
and they want to see these places.
Mm-hmm.
But so I geared it toward folk art and culture, and we still see everything, but we sort of emphasize that, and it's not a restful tour. We're on the go morning till evening,
mm-hmm.
but nobody complains.
Mm-hmm.
People should be able to walk, because we walk a lot.
Mm-hmm. So what are some of the sites that you would take people to see in Ukraine?
Well, we arrive in Kyiv, and in Kyiv it's the usual things that everybody should see, and there's not enough time. And Kyiv is a very expensive city, so we sort of have 3 days there. But, Sofia, Peczerska Lavra, which you need, a whole week to go through.
Mm-hmm.
The Honchar Museum, which is right near there, near the Peczerska Lavra.
Mm-hmm.
Sofia, and then St. Michael the Golden Domed,
mm-hmm.
which is wonderful. And then we have a full-day trip, a bus trip, down to Kamianets-Podilsky. And Kamianets-Podilsky is where this fortress is.
Oh.
And it's just amazing. It's I think it's on the list to become a UNESCO heritage site.
Mm-hmm.
Like Peczerska Lavra and Sofia in Kyiv are UNESCO heritage sites. Geologically and geographically, the old city is on this peninsula in a river, so it was very hard to take this fortress.
Mm.
But it's a very pretty place, and there's a lot of time to walk, and the photo ops are wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, some people take day trips. If people want to see their village or their ancestral village, then a driver's provided and an interpreter if necessary, and they can go for half a day or a day,
mm-hmm.
or their relatives pick them up for a while and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And then from Kamianets, we go down to Kolomea in the foothills of the Carpathia, and that's where you have the Pisanka Museum and the Hutsul Museum. And those are just a treat. And from Kolomea, we take day trips into the Carpathia. There's Bukovel and Yaremche, and then Kosiu and other stops. And the shopping's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
And the food, of course, is good.
Mm-hmm.
And then from Kolomea, we stop on our way to Lviv. We stop for half a day in Ivano-Frankivsky, and that's a lovely pedestrian-friendly city. And then from there, we go to Lviv,
mm-hmm.
and the center of old Lviv is also a UNESCO heritage site, and that's a wonderful city to walk in. The food is wonderful, and it's all very fresh. But if people want processed, there is McDonald's. There is. But the Ukrainian food, some of the stuff you've never eaten before.
Uh-huh. And so people going on this tour will get a chance to sample that.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And the shopping's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
All the folk arts and regular fine arts.
And, of course, the places that you take people, you'll be able to tell them the history. And
oh, yeah.
yeah, okay.
They learn a lot.
Yeah.
They learn a lot.